So the Dallas Mavericks have won the NBA draft lottery for 2025, and it's very surprising. But let me tell you why it's not as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. I'm out of town right now. I'm at my buddy's house. I'm literally up in the loft in the theater room recording this. So hopefully the audio's all good. I got my little mic here. Got the brand new camera. We're posted up, dude. So I just want to go over some important things to talk about when we're looking at the draft lottery. Like why is it such a big deal? The Dallas jumped up to the number one. I think they were projected 10, 1.8% chance, and it was crazy. They won a coin flip between the Chicago Bulls, who they had a tiebreaker with. Flip a coin. Whoever wins gets a 1.8% chance. Whoever loses gets a 1.7% chance. So there's a world where the Bulls win that coin flip and hit that 1% chance and go crazy up there. This is the first time Dallas has won the lottery. I feel like at some point when I was a fan, I thought that Dirk was number one pick. I mean, you kind of just think about that like, oh, really good player. He's got to be a number one pick. But that's never the case. Dallas has never won the lottery, according to what I looked at. And breaking news, just as of a couple minutes ago, ESPN, Tim McMahon reported that they will select Cooper Flag at 1, and they are not talking about trading him at all, and they will take him for sure. So that's kind of reassuring, because people were like, it is Nico Harrison after all. I mean, like, what are we going to do, right? This is the dude that traded Luka Doncic, did literally the unthinkable, the impossible. He might mess up again, might do something a little crazy. So I think it's good that they were like, next day, literally less than 24 hours later, this is what we're going to be doing. And that's cool. Now, here's why the lottery and how it played out is not as bad as you think that it will be. And I went through a bunch of different drafts, and I looked at the number one pick, and then I looked who was picked later. And so we'll get into that in a second, but you should not be worried unless your team sucks at drafting. If your team is notorious for sucking at drafting and drafting bad players, you're screwed. Kings fans, Suns fans, Nets fans, kind of, we'll talk about all those teams later. But if your team drafts well, if you're like an OKC fan, they don't have a really good pick in this draft. Or Spurs, they've been doing pretty good. Like, the rest of the lottery is super important, because number one pick is very, cut and dry. That's the number one guy. Generally, there's a number one guy. Unless it's like last year and it's like, oh, it's kind of all over the place. I don't know. We might have someone down later on. But as of right now, Cooper Flag was the number one draft pick. He's going to be the number one draft pick, 100%. So he goes at 1, but then there have been a ton of other drafts, and I picked 7 here to kind of analyze and look at, where there was a clear number one guy, but someone drafted later. And when you got to draft a guy at 1, and you, like, that's not to say that this guy was drafted number 1 overall and you needed to get him, and there was someone better later. That doesn't mean that the number 1 draft was a bad pick. You got to just go with who you got. It's revisionist history. It's all this stuff. So the first draft I want to talk about is 2009 draft. Blake Griffin, 100% number 1. You got to get Blake Griffin. This dude is insane. Now, 16, 17 years later, you look at Steph Curry going number 7, and you can't say Steph Curry should have gone 1, because he should not have gone 1. Blake Griffin should have definitely gone 1. But on how things play out, this is my whole point of why the draft lottery is not as crazy as it is looking right now, where, oh my gosh, Dallas has got number 1. It's insane. Calm down. Like, we're going to see something like this maybe 10 years in the future, and I've got a ton of other drafts I want to talk about. But that's kind of we'll come back to the Blake Griffin one. That's kind of the main one I want to talk about. 2010, John Wall went number 1. Paul George was taken at 10. You can say what you want. John Wall, probably got to take him in that draft. But overall, in a career, I think I'd take Paul George over John Wall. I think that's not that crazy. Next year, 2011, Kyrie go number 1. Crazy. Duke, great. Even though he had injuries, Kyrie go number 1. But then you see at number 15, you got Kawhi. And I'd like to mention as well for these, I'm not going to talk about like, oh my gosh, Jokic went 42nd in the second round. I'm talking about lottery picks. Guys that were, I mean, obviously all those guys in the second round are available in the lottery. But in terms of guys who were selected, and you can look in the lottery, if you're a lottery team, you can't just be like, our season's chalk because we have number 12. Look what you can get with number. You got a lot of options. You're picking before a lot of people. So if you're a competent squad, competent organization, you should not be whining about this, right? So the next year, 2012, AD number 1, 100%. But then you got Dame at 6. So what happened 2, 3, 4, 5? You probably could have gotten Dame. The 2-3 pick is really like, that's where you see the most preference. That's where you see a lot of mistakes happening. We're talking about Darko Milicic. We're talking about now, unfortunately, Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, guys like that where it's like, oh man, we're going to take him at 2. And it just did not pan out. It was a preference pick from the team. We're not going to take who's the best option. We're going to take this guy. And it just doesn't work out like that. So picking second and third is really hard because picking first is pretty, here we go. Unless you pick first and it wasn't the consensus top 1. Then we'll talk about that right now. Or next one. 2015, Cat, number 1, pretty good. You get D-Book down to 13. Solid. Crazy that D-Book, out of the 4 Kentucky guys that year, he was the 4th one. And a couple years later, he'd go drop 70 on the Celtics. Just crazy. He overall good player. You could say probably Cat right now has been balling out of his mind, but D-Book, I mean, in terms of having a franchise player, you have Cat or you got D-Book. I might go D-Book there. Then 2018, this is the big hitter. You got DeAndre Ayton going number 1, Marvin Bagley at 2, Luka at 3. So I'm not going to count Luka as like they missed Luka, even though they absolutely whiffed on Luka for the Suns. You had Shea at 11, right? So you have that option to be able to draft him. So if you're a lower team in the lottery, don't worry about it. Like if you have a good organization, and I'll get into who I'm worried about organizationally in a second. Like you guys, it should be fine. There's a lot of guys, and this is a very, very, very good draft. There's a lot of guys here that could be very, very interesting. Last one, we got 2020. Ant goes number 1, 100%. He should go number 1. Halliburton picked at 12. Now both these guys in their 5th year are going to compete for their 2nd conference finals. I mean, they're not there yet, but both of them are up 3-1. So we'll have to see how that goes out. So generally, when there's a consensus number 1 pick at a draft, you got to take that guy. But in most of these cases, the guy taken after could overshadow the number 1 pick in the draft. Like, I want to go back to Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, you have to take Blake Griffin number 1. I don't care. I was not really watching the NBA at that age because I was like 8 or 9, but I'd assume you'd take Blake Griffin, the 6'10 guy who jumps out the gym and killed everyone in college, right? And then you got Steph Curry, little homie from Davidson who could shoot threes. But fast forward, like I said, 16, 17 years, Steph Curry's got 4 rings, 2 MVPs, first unanimous MVP. Like, just if you're good at drafting, you can see stuff like that. And then if you got a good organization overall and you can build these players up, that helps a ton. Blake Griffin had a great career, like a really, really good career. So you can't say that it was a bad pick. Same with all these guys. That's what I'm saying. These aren't busts. I'm not talking about the busts. I'm talking about where there was a consensus. The number 1 is going number 1. And then there's everything else. John Wall, Kyrie, AD, Cat, DeAndre. Like, we knew the Suns were going to take him, but it wasn't like he's the best part of this draft. I still remember being like, Luka is crazy. And here we are. And then Ant, same thing, 2020. Like, you got to take Ant number 1. But there's other guys going on. So just because there's a number 1 option didn't mean you whiff out on the lottery. You still, if you got a good squad, like I'm saying, you can still get some players. Now, who am I not worried about drafting organizationally? Utah, Washington, Houston, Chicago, Portland. All of those franchises generally do a good job. Utah did a good job last year. Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski. Washington, Alex Sarr. I mean, you got Bilal Coulibaly the year before that. Bob Carrington, Keyshawn George. You got a bunch of guys. Houston, I mean, we haven't to say anything about Houston. Phenomenal job over there in Houston. And they have a top 10 pick this year as well. Chicago, generally pretty good. Pat Williams is like the but you got Buzelis. You got a bunch of guys. You got Kobe White. Did a pretty good job. And Portland with all their guys. I mean, you got Scoot. You drafted Dame back in the day. So that's an organization that kind of, I feel like they know more what they're doing. Now, who am I more worried about? I'm worried about Philly, Charlotte, Toronto, and Brooklyn. Those I'm like, Like, I'm glad. Philly, I'm like, overall, I don't know what they're doing. Charlotte, I'm like, that just is kind of like nothing's clicked yet. Toronto, same thing, nothing's clicked. Brooklyn is like, I don't even know what y'all are doing. So I'm worried about those teams drafting. We're going to have to see how that goes. As far as the odd situation goes, I like it. We moved away from tanking, so you can't just like lose, get the worst record, and then you get the number 1 pick. That was too scuffed. I thought that was pretty dumb. Moved away from it, and this is what it looks like. So we can't complain about the odds. If you're a franchise or you're a fan of a franchise and you're complaining about the odds on your team going down, well, you can complain about it if your front office sucks and you can't draft. But just don't mess up. Like, what's the problem? If you're good at drafting, don't mess up. OKC has not missed recently. They've hit on like 10 picks. And they have a lot of picks. So you just got to be a good organization. It's literally a skill issue. Like OKC has not missed. They will continue not to miss. And I wrote, so it's literally a skill issue. So just don't suck. There are teams that have sucked. Oh, like I'm in Phoenix literally right now because I'm from here. I'm visiting. Over the years, Dragan Bender, Josh Jackson. I mean, I could go on and on and on about some players that I'm like, why did you draft DeAndre Ayton? What are we doing? You got D Book, that's cool. What are we doing here? Who else was I gonna think of? Sacramento has been like Ben McLemore and Marvin Bagley. Those are the main two that I'm like big lottery picks. Talked about a whole ton and then just did not do a whole ton. Now you did get Halliburton, which was good, and traded him, even though you traded him, and he was better than Fox the whole time. Anyways, you got Fox. That was cool, right? Fox is definitely a good pick, but some of these teams miss more often than they hit a lot, and OKC is one of those teams that hits on a very, very high rate. So if your team has a good good way to draft, you're going to be good, but some of these teams do not, and they suck. So that's why I think it's interesting to see. We got to let these play out. I mean, we're still 5 years away from the 2020 draft, and some of these guys are still kind of picking it up. It takes a long time. We can look back on the 2009 draft and 100% be like, that's how it was. That's what it's going to be. Steph Curry is 100% better than Blake Griffin, but you had to take Blake at the time. That's what I think is going to be when we're looking at, in 2035, in 10 years, we're going to be like, oh boy, Cooper Flag, really good. Hype was awesome. Really good player. But maybe someone else pops off and wins a three-peat or something. Like you just don't know. So take what you can get. Lottery's not that bad. It's going to be a fun time. I think it's in the middle of June is the draft. So this is going to be a good draft. I'm glad that the Mavericks came out and said we're going to do this. But, man, we got to talk about what the Spurs are going to do with their second pick. If they would have got number one, we would be having a way different conversation about luck and stuff like that. That's all I got for today, bro. Hopefully the video's quality is still fine while I'm out on vacation. But that's all I got for today, bro. We out.